Hello everyone, it's Danny. Welcome. I hope this video finds you well. Today I'm going to tell you my top 3 orchids for beginner growers. Now, please be aware that all orchids can be hard if you really know nothing about general orchid care. Orchids are epiphytes and like a lot of airflow around their roots. Do not pot them up in potting soil. They are not like your regular houseplant. If you pot them in potting soil, their roots will suffocate and your orchid will die. Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you the top 3. And when I say top 3, I mean the top 3 that have been the easiest growing orchids for myself to thrive and to rebloom. So let's get into it. My number 1. No, it's not a Phalaenopsis, it's Oncidiums and their hybrids. I love Oncidiums. Most smell absolutely beautiful. And they have just really a variety of flowers. You can get really different shapes and colors and sizes and fragrances. The most popular is the Cherry Baby Oncidium that smells like chocolate. The main reason I placed Oncidiums at the top is because they are nearly indestructible. The roots really don't like drying out. So in my environment, moss is the best media to choose. Once I notice that the top layer of the media is beginning to dry, I give it a really nice soak while making sure after the soak there's plenty of air circulation around the orchid. If you can provide as bright light as you can without giving it direct sunlight, an Oncidium orchid will thrive and grow in most cases pretty fast and bloom often. Now this one takes a very long time to develop its spikes. Its spikes and buds are very slow growing, but that's not the case for all Oncidium orchids, given the right care. And given the right care, new pseudobulbs will grow, and once they mature, they will send out flower spikes for you. And with the right care, you can have an Oncidium orchid bloom for you several times a year. Most Oncidiums, especially the very popular ones like this Twinkle and Cherry Baby hybrids, are very readily available. You can get them anywhere online. Most orchid nurseries will carry Cherry Babies and Twinkles. The only con that I have experienced in my growing is the size that these orchids can become. But there's a flip side to that con, because once they get to a really good size, boy, do they put on a show for you, especially the Cherry Babies. That was my Cherry Baby Oncidium that was in bloom just maybe 4 or 5 months ago. The flower spikes on it were taller than my son. This is another Oncidium, and along with the size, you just get a great bloom show. So this is why this orchid is my number 1 for beginners, because of the hardiness of it. It likes to stay moist and it blooms often. Coming in at number 2, still might be a surprise to you, it's not a Phalaenopsis, it's Cattleya Orchid hybrids. And the reason I say the hybrids is because in my experience, the species have been very temperamental for me. They really like to pitch a fit when I don't mimic their natural habitat. So these hybrids are really the way to go when it comes to not pitching fits. They enjoy bright light, even withstanding some direct sunlight. as long as that is not too hot. And a good indicator to know if it is too hot is by feeling the leaves on your orchid. And this goes for all orchids in my experience. If you touch the leaves and they're hot to the touch, just like our skin, they'll burn. They will get sunburnt. So if these leaves are hot to the touch, you need to move your orchid to a more shady area. In my experience, when giving the proper amount of highlight, these will rebloom for you on a regular basis. And they rebloom from new growth. Right here. They develop a sheath, and then buds come out of the new growth. Now the roots really like to dry out between waterings. Once your media is dry and your roots are dry, it's time for a good soak. And you can see here everything is dry, so it is time to soak this orchid. I really enjoy potting my Cattleyas in small pebbles, because those small pebbles are not going to break down and start decaying and rotting your roots. And the one con is that some of these orchids can get very large and take up a lot of space. So I don't have very many of these type of Cattleya hybrids because space is limited with almost all of us orchid growers. We don't have an unlimited space of greenhouses to our beck and call, even though I wish all of us did. These hybrids do very well in high temperatures. In fact, they thrive in high temperatures. During the summer when my greenhouse got 100 degrees plus, these Cattleya hybrids didn't skip a beat. They were so happy with the hot temps. So this is a really good choice of orchid if you live in an environment that does have high temps. So all of those reasons, plus these beautiful blooms and fragrance and the ease of growing these, this is why Cattleya hybrids come in at number 2 for me. Finally, number 3, the Phalaenopsis. Finally, I had to put Phalaenopsis on the list because this is the most common orchid. It is the most common orchid. It is the orchid that most people start their orchid hobby off with. It is sold nearly everywhere, in almost every grocery store, every flower shop, every nursery, and every orchid website online has a Phalaenopsis. Now please keep in mind that this is based off of my experience. That's the one thing that all of us YouTubers and growers and people giving out advices, our advice is based off of our experience. And my experience is the big no ID Phalaenopsis hybrids from like your local grocery store or hardware store are easier to grow than say the species, and let me tell you why. So like I mentioned with the Cattleya hybrids and the Cattleya species, it same goes with the Phalaenopsis hybrids and species. The species for me pitches a fit on me when I don't mimic what it wants exactly. And this is a great example. This is a beautiful Phalaenopsis stewartiana from friends of mine, and she had a bunch of buds, but she wasn't happy about something in this greenhouse, something about her growing environment, and she is blasting, or has been blasting, her buds on me. So again, the species can be more temperamental. So with that being said, I would refer back to the ease of the hybrids. This is an orchid that will and can thrive in intermediate light. It doesn't need as bright light as, say, your Cattleya hybrids or your Oncidiums. But in my experience here in the greenhouse, they really have been thriving with a little brighter light than I would say intermediate light. They get a lot of bright light here in the greenhouse, and they've shown to be happy with it, with this just beautiful Phalaenopsis show that they've been giving me. So these orchids also like to dry out between waterings. And how you know that your orchid, your Phalaenopsis orchid, needs to be watered is that the roots will have a silver sheen to them. They won't be nice and green anymore. They'll have a silver sheen to them. And that's when you know you need to give your Phalaenopsis a nice soak. And after you give it a nice soak, make sure it has proper air circulation for those roots, and you'll be good to go. I truly believe that any of these three, a Phalaenopsis hybrid, a Cattleya hybrid, or Oncidium, it's truly a great choice for any orchid grower, whether it be a beginner or an experienced orchid grower. I hope this video has helped in making maybe a decision in the near future for you. Happy growing, guys. Until next time.